Right.
Yeah. Ask anything. Happy to answer.
And I'll tell
All
you
right.
what, I looked at your website and so many advisors talk about themselves rather than other people, and so many advisors seem to be self-referential rather than outward focused. And so I think that's the biggest distinction I saw among, the things I was able to see on the website. Um,
Yeah. Thank you.
Kudos, basically, is what I'm saying.
Thank you. We'll talk, Joe. I don't know if you need to launch it, but yeah, I'm happy to chat about anything and everything that you all would like
No,
to come
no,
back.
yeah. So I've turned on recording, so now we're recording, and I'll announce it now. So this is the 28th episode of the Advisor Tech Book Live podcast, and today I have James Conole of Root Financial and Bob Veris of Inside Information with me as a guest podcast host. Welcome, James and Bob.
Thank you, Joe.
The first question I wanted to ask is maybe just if you could share a little bit of your background, your story, how you went from I don't want to start here exactly, but being fired from a firm to now running one of the fastest growing RIAs in the industry.
Well, it's kind of where it starts, so probably a very appropriate place to start. I did well. I got my formal start at another RIA. So I interned with a couple of companies when I was in college. One was Merrill Lynch. Did an internship there. Really didn't like anything about it. The other was an independent firm called Seaside Wealth Management. Really liked it a lot, and was fortunate enough that during that internship, it was a one person company at the time. So as well, great. I can join when I graduate college, and I did so. So right out of business school, joined that firm. Um, started like technically probably I don't remember what my title would have been, but it was very much like a client service and even receptionist role. So my former boss, the former owner, he was a firefighter. So he would be firefighting or you'd be up at the station 2, 3 days a week. And so it's kind of like we need someone just in that front desk when people come in to take their paperwork, to take whatever, to do whatever is needed, to fill out paperwork. And it was very much like it was not an advice role by any
Sure.
means. But it was great for me because I don't think that coming right out of college, I didn't have the confidence or the skill set, obviously, to go out and be an advisor. So I got to spend some time literally just doing paperwork and receptionist type duties, and like gradually grew from there to saying, okay, now I'm sitting in on some meetings. Okay, now I'm maybe doing some of the actual planning. Um, Now I'm doing some of the actual advising for maybe the firm's smaller clients. And by the time that my tenure at the firm was coming up, I didn't know it was coming up at the time, but it was kind of full blown, I would say, in advisor duties where I was meeting with clients, serving clients, both in like a second chair role where the former owner was still called like the primary advisor, but I was doing a lot of the planning and presenting, as well as the first chair advisor to a lot of clients of my own. So I was there from 2012 until 2017 full time, so about 5.5 years. Got fired in August of 2017, and uh, kind of asked myself the question, like, what's next? Do I really love this job? Like, is this really what I want to do for the rest of my life, or do I just feel like maybe I stumbled into it and maybe had a bit of success or a bit of you know good luck with it in terms of it was something I could do well? And so it was really healthy. It was a good time to sit back and reflect, and it didn't take long, but within 24, 48 hours, there was this very compelling sense that, yeah, I absolutely love this job and this work. And um, there's maybe some things that if I was to keep doing it, I'd want to do very differently than what it previously looked like. And it was actually a very, very good thing in retrospect that I got fired, had 3 or 4 months to like start essentially the registration process, the building a website, the everything that just goes into launching a firm. Um, to spend the time thinking about what for this to be something that I'm actually really excited about and want to do for the rest of my career, what would this need to look like? And so had the opportunity to actually reflect in a way that I probably never would have if it was just you've got your job, you're doing well, life is busy, just keep doing it. And one day you wake up saying like, what the heck am I doing? And is this actually what I wanted to be spending my life doing? So that was November of 2017 that Root Financial launched. So we're here a little over 8 years later. Um, and I can confidently say, yeah, this is what I want to do for the rest of my career. And I absolutely love it.
That's awesome.
I just can't hear Joe. I can hear you.
Oh,
That might be a good thing.
he's not saying much, Bob. Don't worry.
So I'm super interested in like human transformation. I watched your Root Manifesto video, and it talks about a lot about like living a good life. And I've said in some of my posts almost like retirement is stealing someone's life from them. Now I'm talking about like a younger person. So like if you take a 30 something person and keep them so focused on, I'm saving money for when I'm 65, it's like, well, what about now? What about today and tomorrow and next week? Like, why can't we focus on living a great life now? Um, so I'm interested, like, almost in your personal transformation from the previous company and then the 3 month period specifically, like where you decide what you wanted to do. And then even to like where Root is now. Like, what's been your personal journey throughout all of this?
I don't know exactly what like chapters I would give it or the titles of those chapters I would give it as much as uh, have a sense of what I think would be a really cool company that I would want to work at and spend the rest of my life working at, and what would make this a very attractive place for what in my mind are the absolute best other people in the industry would come work at and be part of the team creating what we're creating. And so I think at different parts of the journey, it's like you've got to learn how to master different things. Like at the beginning, it's just you're running a business, and how do you get the workflows, and how do you get the processes, and how do you get clients, and it's like there's just the foundational piece that you're learning, and then it becomes. Um, I mean, I know you referenced the fast growing. Like, how does that happen? Well, how if we're going to build something big, like how do we need to think about marketing? Okay, how do we need to think about um, the marketing's quote unquote fixed? That doesn't mean anything if you don't have the team to serve those clients in a really deep and meaningful way. So how do you now build out career paths, something that would be very attractive to the type of advisor that we'd want to work at? How do you build in training and development? That then is the next area of focus. Then it's like, well, there's a growing team. Like you need to really build out an executive team and a leadership team to be able to do some of these things that your span of control just you can't do everything, nor should you want to do everything, but who can be that person that um, could do a way better job than I could do a way better job than anyone else could. And how do you find that person, bring that person in, define roles, define responsibilities, define kind of what success looks like. And even like as a part of it, like even today, it's like, well, what should my always ask myself, what should my job be now? Because it's different now versus a year ago versus 5 years ago. So maybe if I sat down for a long time, I could put better titles to what the different chapters are, but it's just trying to constantly think about the core thing for everything at Root to succeed isn't asset growth. It's not revenue growth. It's not like really good marketing. It's the people at Root are what make Root special. So if we want to serve clients well, if we want to keep growing, if we want everything else to work, we first have to think through how do we become the type of firm that the absolute best people um, would want to join and would never want to leave because they're having so much fun and getting so much out of working at Root. So that's kind of the core piece of if we can get that right, if we can nail that, everything else is either downstream of that or it's something that is intended to support that um, idea of what we want Root to be.
Yeah, for sure. The people part is super interesting. I think just right now within the industry as a whole, and even like the larger tech landscape, a lot of companies are trying to use AI to replace people. And my focus has kind of been like AI, if used correctly, will uplift humans. It won't replace them. Um, do you have any thoughts on how you're using AI at Root specifically?
Um, yeah, I mean, we're using it. We're using the standard like everyone's got a note. Well, I shouldn't say everyone. Who knows? Like we're using AI wherever we can. I have no idea. I'm not like a futurist. I can see the future. I know exactly what's going to
Sure.
happen. I think there's a lot of uh, advisors who maybe think they can tell the future, but maybe you're just repeating a blog post or a video they saw somewhere. So who knows? I have no idea. I know there are a few people that do know really what they're doing, and so how can we align even with the partnerships we have with Root, the companies that we're aligned with, like how can we make sure that the people who will be delivering on this innovation over time, we can be really closely connected with them. I'm not going to be developing AI. No one at Root's going to be developing AI. We can use the tools, but someone else is going to be developing those tools, of course. So there's all kinds of cool things, and I think that we don't take the view that it will replace people either. Like it will. I mean, when you think about it, like sure, it replaces it in the sense that maybe instead of needing two people for this one function, you need one, or instead of needing five people, like compliance right now.
Right.
We use Greenboard for compliance. I'm not our CCO, Alex is, and she's like, yeah, Greenboard has replaced our need for a few different people to review all the content that we do, to review all the stuff that we do. So like that's a perfect example of like, yes, it has replaced a person, but it wasn't us letting go of three people. It's just we never had the need in the first place to hire
Yeah.
all those people to come in and do what we're doing. But on the flip side, like there's more people that we will now need because those resources can now be allocated to advisors or team growth or other things that we're doing, as opposed to something that's more of a read through the transcript of every single video, make sure we're flagging this for any potential stuff going on. So it will absolutely replace people or replace the need to add certain people. But I think the net impact, at least for us, will be more people that we can bring onto the team net.
Yeah, no, I agree with that completely. I mean, good technology does make processes easier, simpler, faster, less human intensive. Um, even using altruist as a custodian versus another custodian, like it does definitely free up time. So I definitely see that part of it for sure. What maybe tech is not like your forte specifically, but like of your tech stack, what would you say is like the ultimate piece of technology you guys are using?
I don't know. Like I don't like I wouldn't say tech's not my it's every bit of tech that we have exists to support what our advisors can do. So it's not like we are
Okay.
not a company that's going to lead with tech. I think we have the best advisors in the industry. And I think that the tech that we have, whether it's the custodial piece, the financial planning piece, one of our tenants, like we list out tenants, like what does it mean to be an excellent financial advisor? One of those is our advisors do not rely upon financial planning software to be the advisor. I think there's this
Yeah.
temptation to say, well, the plan says, or a client asks me a question, well, let me update the plan. Let me see. And it's like the plan can support what you're saying, but you have to be the one that's ultimately delivering that advice. It can't just
Yeah.
be let me plug in numbers. That's super replaceable. And that's not even super impactful because the technology, if you have the perfect inputs, I'll use financial planning software, for example. If you have the absolute perfect inputs, then yes, it can deliver something that is very accurate. But there's oftentimes cases where it doesn't have perfect information. It can illustrate. It's the whole concept of, I mean, to me, a picture is worth 1,000 words. Like, let me show you this via pictures, via projections, via whatever. But the advice is what I, as the human, and delivering to Joe as a client or to whoever the client is. Um, I don't know what our single greatest piece of technology is. I mean, all of them you could argue. Everything from Right Capital is what we're using for financial planning. We're exploring other things there too. HubSpot is our CRM, that would be indispensable to us. Just we have so many marketing contacts from the work that we do online and the marketing that we do online, and we manage that through HubSpot, our
Sure.
contact record through HubSpot, the workflows, the processes, the tickets through HubSpot. So it's like you could say any of these things are indispensable. We're leveraging the AI note takers using both Jump AI. We're using Altruist Hazel product. So it's like all of these things are contributing to what we're doing. Um, Tough for me to say what's the single most important thing because
Yeah.
there's a few of them that without them, we would not be able to do what we do.
Well, there's kind of a conclusion that I've come to on my own. I mean, this industry is obsessed with the technology. I don't know if maybe you're just if you realize that early on, then it have slowly like changed over time. Like the tenets that you believe and almost the way even you talk about these subjects are just different than the most of the industry and how they talk about it. Do you recognize that, or not necessarily?
I don't know. I honestly don't know a lot about our industry. Like I spend very, very
Okay.
little time thinking about our industry. Um, I know a handful of people in an industry, and they're wonderful people, but, like, I don't, uh, like, I get, yes, this is the industry that we're working in, that I'm working in, but,
Right.
like, it's not what we're trying to build. So I think that part of it was driven by when I started, I got fired. I hadn't saved up anything to start Root Financial. There's some other details that, like, all my money was gone essentially, and it's like I can't afford technology to get
Yeah.
going. So like I'm gonna get what I absolutely need to have. Like yes, I need to have a custodial relationship. Obviously, I'm gonna get. I used XYPN to launch, so I had the Wealth Box subscription included in that. I had some of the other subscriptions like that like are core pieces of technology, but like I didn't have a client portal. I didn't have performance reporting. I didn't even have like for the first number of clients, like a billing solution. It was like a manual. And it's like I kind of got through. It's like, oh, maybe some of these things I don't actually need. Like clients aren't really asking that. Like, what is my performance from March 2nd until today? Like, it comes up, and like I would literally go sign up for a trial for some company just to be able to port my TD Ameritrade information in there, see the performance, and it's like I would have a way of kind of backing into getting it if I needed. But it did show me, um, like a lot of stuff, a lot of people talking about all the cool tech they have. There's the Kits' tech map. I couldn't tell you 90% of the companies on that, and at the same time, I don't
Sure.
care
Right.
because I'm sure there's some good things there, but it becomes a form of obviously procrastination.
For
'Cause,
sure.
like, it feels like I'm productive, it feels like I'm busy because I'm researching all this stuff, but no clients are coming in, no clients are getting served, nothing's actually happening. So, thankfully now we have a team of very talented people in our operations team that's like, here is the tech that we're gonna be using to support what we're doing, but, and there's a lot more now than there was at that time, but yes, there is this sense of we're not chasing new tech solutions, um, just because, like, what I don't know what we're gonna get out of that.
Yeah. No, it's super refreshing, honestly, just to hear this, and I'm sure the listeners will agree. But so early on, I think you had mentioned you were thinking about just being like a single person shop, just managing all the clients you could yourself. Um, at some point, you decided that you wanted to hire a team and actually grow. Were there different stages in like I want to work by myself, manage my own book of business to I want to build a team, and then like maybe whatever your current goal is for Root?
There's definitely different phases of how many people were actually here, but very early on after launching Root, it's funny, I actually just found this notebook like a few weeks ago.
Okay.
I went down to this campsite that's just a few blocks from here because I was thinking like what is I didn't ever plan on starting a business. I never wanted to start a business. Here I am starting it. Like what who knows what it becomes? And it's maybe not going to change too much of what I'm doing today when the goal is just like get it launched and start getting clients. But I do at least want to have some sense of what am I trying to build towards. And I spent a whole day kind of writing out. Is it a solo thing where it's just me, maybe an assistant, and lean and mean and profitable, but I have great relationships with however many clients I serve, or is it the team thing? And going into that, it was in my mind like it was just going to be me. Like I think that um, my previous company, there's a little bit of I learned wonderful things there, lots of great things there, but it also seemed like a revolving door of no one's ever really staying that long. Uh, Maybe it was implicitly or explicitly told to me like, oh, maybe because you're not a good manager of all this stuff, whatever. And so I think there was that mindset of, man, I'm not good at managing people. So
Yeah.
why try? Why not just build something where I can do this and serve clients really well and have a great life with my family too. But after going through that, it was like, no, like maybe these things I believe about my ability to do that aren't true. Like maybe there is a better way to build structure into the way we hire and train and develop and retain really quality team members. Maybe there is a better way to maybe it's more like circumstantial and like the structure of the previous thing that caused that, not so much a lack of ability to manage. So, anyways, long story short, walked away from that feeling like pretty compelling sense that no, I actually do want to do this with a team. I think that would be the most effective way, the most fun way, the most enjoyable way to build something that had a meaningful impact and also contributed in a meaningful way to overall
Yeah.
quality of life. But that was very early on. So that like in my mind is like, yes, I will probably bring people on. It was 3 years later that the first team member joined. So 2017, November 2017 launched Root. November of 2020, Ari joined as the first team member. Funny enough, he called me, like he cold called me or cold emailed me, I think a month or two after starting. So like we had started to develop a relationship a little bit over those few years, but things weren't at the point to where I could afford to bring anybody on or needed to bring
Sure.
anyone on until November of 2020. And so that was the first team member. Chris Raboli, he was the second team member to join in November of 2021. Dan DeGarry, he came on April of 2022. So if you go back, what's it, 4 years ago, there's three of us, almost four, and then it's just been growing since then.
Are you familiar with the visualized value chart that basically shows like a lot of lines that are flat, and then at some point there's just like this exponential curve going up, and it's somewhere in the thing it has an arrow and it says this is pointless. So I think something that some people don't realize is like it was 3 years by yourself, then you added one person, then two people, then three people, and then like in 2025, I believe you like doubled AUM just in 2025 alone. Is that correct?
Correct. The growth rate really hasn't changed. Like, yeah, we doubled it in 2025, but same with every other year. It's just those numbers get
Okay,
bigger as
sure.
you grow.
So 1 to 2 billion, 2 to 4 billion, 4 to 8 billion. Do you have a goal for like AUM, or do you not even really think about AUM?
I wouldn't say it's our primary goal. No, it's kind of like a scorecard of rear view looking, how did we do? But no, there's other goals, and we'll have like another State of the Union type thing that we do probably sometime in Q2, where we just had our team retreat last week, I should say. And we said,
Okay.
like, here is our actual goal. And no, it's not tied to AUM. Here's what we're trying to do. And we'll be publicly talking about that when we do our annual State of the Union webinar.
So how do you maybe talk a little bit about organic growth? It's a huge buzzword in the industry, maybe not one that you hear a lot from your perspective, but how do you think about organic growth? How did you choose YouTube? And then what are you thinking about growing, into the future?
Inorganic growth is just not even something that crosses my mind. So like, I don't think of organic, I just think of growth. Like if we want to be able to support, if we want to be able to do what we want to do, and if we want to be able to support, like we have very much separated the sales and business development function from the advice function within
Okay,
Root. So if we want to be able to support our team, and if we want to be able to continue to attract really awesome people, then like, yeah, we better do a really good job of continuing to grow, continuing to generate leads so that we can support the people that are leaving jobs that many of them like to be able to come here and join the team and be part of what we're doing. So like that's kind of a piece that we'll always be hyper focused on. What do we do? It started when launching. I was like, hey, people are writing blogs. Maybe I'll write blogs. And so I wrote a few blogs. I like writing when, I feel inspired to write, but I don't often feel that. And
sure.
gave up on that. Didn't really like it. Started doing a podcast. I forget exactly when, maybe 2018 or 2019. Myself and another advisor, I think it was 2019. So that was just the first other people doing podcasts. There was no like master strategic plan. It was just people doing blogs. I'll do blogs. Okay, I don't really like blogs. People doing podcasts. Okay, I'll do podcast. It started getting some traction. It was myself and another advisor, Scott. And then, so that's good. It's getting traction. People are listening. But it's a little bit more generic advice, broad advice. It's not specifically targeted to the clients that Root is working with. So a year into doing that one, maybe a year and a half into doing that one, launched another podcast called Ready for Retirement that was specifically focused to retirees. Did that for a while. Friend of mine, who's now our VP of brand, said, hey, just take your iPhone and record yourself doing your podcast and then put it on YouTube too. And so that was kind of the genesis of YouTube of it didn't work, then it worked. Then, so, some tweaks there, but there was no sense of seeing the future and where things, it was just trying different things. And there's a lot of people doing YouTube too. And so a lot are really great. Some should not be doing YouTube. There's nothing interesting about it. It's not getting traction. That doesn't mean you can't do marketing, but maybe you're better writing. Maybe you're better doing seminars. Maybe you're better doing relationally with your clients and asking for
Sure.
referrals. So there's not one thing that everyone should be doing, because there's a lot of advisors that are very good at some of these things, and there's a lot of advisors that are very not good at these things, and it just becomes a waste of time. And don't just think that because someone else is doing it and having success, you should also be doing it and expect success.
Yeah. Um, how how do you think that, like, based on advisors' temperaments or skills, like how would you recommend they figure out like the best marketing method for them?
Try everything and see what works.
Yeah.
Um, in my, the marketing method really that I started with was being part of the Dave Ramsey SmartVestor network. So I
Okay.
wasn't doing any marketing. I was just paying to be part of the network and getting a whole bunch of people to call, and that worked. Some people do smart asset, and that works. Some people they do, or maybe you're not, like, maybe marketing's not your thing. Maybe you're an incredible advisor. You're an insanely good advisor, but just like the marketing piece, the sales piece, you don't like, well, great. Go join a firm like Root, and like, don't force something that you shouldn't be forcing if it's just not your natural skill set. So um, ask yourself, like, do you have the skill set for that? If not, it's not a bad thing. Like, the most important skill set in this industry is not marketing, it's your ability to deliver that advice. And so maybe it's going to a place where that is not an expectation, and you can simply be an absolutely incredible advisor and not have to worry about um, the other marketing piece. So that's the first piece. And then if you do like the marketing piece, well, then just try everything. A
Yeah.
lot of things work. I think people get the sense of FOMO of so and so's doing that. I'm not. I don't know. Maybe they don't, but like, I see you post, "Hey, Root's done this," and Roots, others have Roots. Like, kind of say, so what? What do you want to do? What could you stick with for a long time, and then do that.
Yeah. No, I totally get that. Some of my comments probably come off a little bit trollish, but I think it's funny when one company's like, "Hey, we added 50 million or 100 million last year," and I'm like, "Yeah," but it's just interesting to compare. But maybe you don't like to be compared. I think that in some ways success is a personal thing. Do you like when your growth rates or your AUM added is compared to other firms, or not really?
Um, I don't really care. Like, for the first several years of Root, like, I kind of like not being in the industry circles, so to
Yeah.
speak. I don't know, maybe this is selfish, but like, you do it, it's like, hey, can I people look, there's some awesome people in the industry. I have some really great relationships with a lot of people in the industry, but I think too much of the industry feels like they're being productive when they're networking with other advisors and talking with other advisors and do like picking other stop doing that. Stop joining study groups, stop joining masterminds, stop, just sit down and think about, like, what's the problem in front of me and how can I create a solution to this? I think so often people turn off their critical thinking skills because, like, oh, I'll just join this study group, or I'll just join this mastermind. I'll just listen to this podcast. I'll just do what Joe Moss is telling me to do. That's fine to get some inspiration, but like, at the end of the day, nothing's going to replace just sitting down, a good mix of thinking and doing.
Yeah.
Like, thinking about what's, there's the quote from a book called The One Thing, though. What's the one thing such that by doing it, everything else becomes easier or irrelevant? Like, constantly think through that. What's the pain point I either have today or we will have in 6 to 12 months if nothing changes based upon what we're doing now? And what's the one thing that we can do to alleviate that? Even if it's not a problem today, chances are good. I've used this analogy before, but I started doing jujitsu a few years ago, and someone recommended that I read a book. And I read which felt weird to read a book about like a very physical, interactive thing. Like, you're not going to learn anything by reading. But anyways, I read it and it was interesting. And it talked about, like, well, what's the best way to get out of a rear naked choke? And it was like, okay, well, what do? You put your arm here and pull it. And it's like, no, you don't let yourself get into that position in the first place. And so it talked about the concept of when's the best time to kill a dragon. And it's like, well, when the dragon's still an egg, before this dragon becomes this full-fledged, fire-breathing, town-wrecking, people-killing thing, like, kill the dragons when they're still eggs. And so I think that's an analogy that's stuck with me. Like, what are the little dragon eggs that are inside of Root today? Like, what are the things that right now we could afford to let them go, whatever, it's not a big problem. But if we don't address this now, it's going to become a dragon, and it's going to cause a whole bunch of issues. And what can we do to actively search for those dragon eggs, which means actively searching for those problems via feedback from team members or just things that we're feeling. And then I'm find that, don't go listen to 25 Michael Kitz's podcasts hoping that the answer's there. Like, find that by sitting down and just thinking and working through, like, what could I do? How could I solve this? Who on the team can help with us? Who can I get feedback from? Who else might have some good ideas about this? Um, I'm rambling. I have no idea what question you even asked to start this rambling, but something along the lines of outsource less of the critical thinking onto, like, what are others doing, and just
Sure.
think through, like, there's nothing super unique about this industry. Like, what seems like the logical next step, and just keep trying things and trying to make it the best it can.
Yeah. No, I love that dedication and obsession. I think the reality is most people are so busy doing all these things or trying to find all the answers that they don't even have the space to sit and think. Um, did did you actively like create the space to just sit and think about the issues you were currently dealing with or might come up in the future on a daily, weekly basis? Or how do you, like, most human beings aren't even thinking like the way that you're thinking. So it's like, what practically did you do to like sit down and think on a regular basis in order to get ahead of these issues?
Yeah, and we try to do it at the company level, not just like, what is James thinking about? And well, how do you turn the company into like this second brain that has like the collective best information from all everyone at Root? Like, how is it not just a reflection of me, but it's a reflection of all the really talented and gifted people at Root, that we can build this system that's like, okay, this system or the structure now enables people to be their best and do their best and come contribute in a meaningful way. So, like, at the company level, it's what is your actual long-term goal? Like, what's your vision for what you want to accomplish? Um, we, last year rolled out the whole OKR framework, objective and key results. Like, if this is our long-term goal, then great. What do we want to do in 2025? What are what's our objective, and what are the key results that would show us we have taken the steps, or we've accomplished the things necessary such that objective we could say has been realized. So that's our annual goal. Okay, now what about at a company at a quarter level? Like, what does the advisory department or the operations department or the growth department, what do each of them want to accomplish on a quarterly, this coming quarter, to say, if we do this quarter, we're on track to meet that for this year, and if we meet this year, we're on track to meet our long-term goals. Then take that down a step even further. We have like a weekly reflection email that goes out to every team member of,
Hmm.
not only does every department have their quarterly goals, but every individual had their quarterly goal, their quarterly OKR that they would set. And then every week, hey Joe, what are the top 3 things you can do this week to move in the direction of those goals? And it doesn't have to be anything complicated. Like, there's nothing sophisticated about our goals. It's just that we've taken the time to define them, and we've set aside the intentional time to remind ourselves what we need to be focused on. Because as Slack messages are going off and phone calls are coming in, and you have meetings and you have emails and you have CEs you need to catch up on, and you've got all these things happening, if you don't have something to ground you in what you should be focused on, you're very quickly going to start drifting and
Yeah.
not move in the direction of your goals, but move in the direction of what you're being pulled towards by clients or team members or whatever. So we do that at a company level. And then, like, yeah, personally, I like to wake up early before the rest of the family and just set aside time to think through, like, what are those problems? Like, what are the issues? What are the things? What are the dragon eggs that if we don't address now, they will become full blown issues in the future? And then working through, like, what are the solutions, or who are the people that are best equipped to um, build the solutions on their end and maintain that level of focus and intention.
Yeah. No, I was thinking about even before this, like what the headline for this or the name of the YouTube would video would be when I post it. And I think this industry is so focused on AUM and revenue and stuff. But like it could be, Root added $1 billion in AUM in 2025. But like I don't feel like that reflects the way that you think very well. Is there like a clickbaity title to your way of thinking about the business of financial advice that you use? Because I mean, you do a lot of YouTube videos.
I mean, that's probably the most clickbaity. That's going to be the thing that gets headlines more so than, spend the time developing deep intentional goals and set. No, that's there's nothing wrong with it.
Right.
Obviously AUM is one metric that's kind of it's another way of saying revenue. Obviously, like if you're AUM based, that's going to determine how much revenue you're driving, and that revenue is going to be the thing that drives your ability to continue to reinvest into the team and the client experience. So I'm absolutely not saying that it's unimportant. Like without that, um, you don't have a business,
Right.
but it can't be the thing that you're leading with. We're talking about, well, what's our 5-year goal? What's our 10-year goal? If you set it as AUM, um, there's easy ways to get there. Like, cool,
Sure.
we just diminish the client experience a little bit and we get there faster. Or, we sacrifice our hiring standards. Like when people apply to Root, like we're super, super selective of who we let in. And we go through a pretty intensive process and we dedicate a lot of team time and energy and money to do that. We could, redirect that to just bringing on more advisors faster and not caring so much about the quality of those advisors and still grow AUM. We could go raise a bunch of private equity money and get there faster. But it's like, is that really our goal? And the answer is no. Like, sure, we hit an AUM metric faster, but to me, it's more about, and even like in a selfish way, like I want Root to be the place that is so much fun to come to work that I would never want to retire from it.
Right.
And we're just taking a much longer time horizon than most companies, either because the founders are getting older and they're looking to exit soon, or because the owners are a private equity firm that have a 5 to 7 window to exit, or whatever the case might be. When you take a long-term perspective, it's how do you make Root the home that we all get to collectively live in and absolutely have a blast doing the work that we're doing. And so if AUM becomes our sole metric of success, it's going to drive bad outcomes for things that actually matter to us, which is this fun? Are we attracting the right person? Are we delivering a high level of client service? So yes, it's important, but it's the thing that it's a reflection of how well we're doing on what's actually most important to us.
So does that actually play into like your OKRs, like qualitative objectives versus quantitative objectives? Like, do you
Yeah,
make that
there are
differentiation?
goals for sure for that. Like,
Yeah.
it's not to say we don't care about AUM. We're too enlightened to care about AUM. Like, of course, we care about AUM because we can't keep growing. We can't keep developing advisors if we don't have that thing that ultimately is driving the revenue to do that.
Right.
So it would be a total lie to say we don't care about it. It's just not the leading thing. It's not the number one focus that we have as we're growing.
Yeah. I want to shift gears a little bit and ask basically about a specific quote. What does a life well lived look like?
For me or in general?
For you specifically, and then just maybe for uh, humans, like what does a good human life look like? But maybe it'd be good to just start with you first.
Yeah, I mean, that's obviously what we talk, the quote I'll say is, "The sign of a good financial plan is a life well lived." So,
Yeah.
who cares if you've executed the perfect Roth conversion strategy? Who cares if your, small cap value till delivered an extra 1% return long term over 30 years? Who cares if your client collected Social Security at the perfectly right time if, you know, they never actually enjoyed the fruits of their labor, if they never actually took the time to think about, "What do I actually want to do?" And the problem with retirement planning is it kind of distills life down into pre-retirement and post-retirement. And pre-retirement is sacrifice everything and defer everything so that you can start enjoying it post-retirement and sit in your Adirondack chairs and sell your boats and do whatever else is on advisor websites. But if you're not thinking, if you kind of like if you don't have that life plan connected to the financial plan, um, a lot of it's going to feel empty. You're not going to feel like you actually got the most out of life with your money. And so the reframing, of course, is yes, the financial strategies matter a ton, and like we hope that every advisor is an absolute master of that.
Right.
But if we can't connect with clients and help them understand what their goals even are, Morgan Housel had an awesome blog post where he talked about this. So he's like essentially said, I don't trust when people tell me their goals because people don't know their goals. They don't know what they want to do. And so when you ask them, what do you want to do? They just borrow, well, I don't know. My neighbor got a second home, so maybe I want a second home.
Sure.
Or, I'm supposed to retire at 65, so I want to retire at 65. Or people haven't really thought deeply about what they want to do. And so how do we help to encourage clients in a way to think about that? I think today, like my stage of life, success is, do I love going to work and do I love coming home every day? I've got a young family, and so I want to be super present and intentional and there for these years. And that's just simply like that is being present and not being anxious about work or distracted by work. but I also love work. And so when I go to work every day, I can't wait to show up and flip open the laptop and start doing the work that we're doing. So obviously it goes deeper than that, but like just thinking through I've talked about one of the books somewhere in the back of here is Living Forward by Michael Hyatt. And it's a very simple
Yeah.
concept, but imagine you're dead and you're at your funeral. What's everyone saying about Joe? What's everyone saying about James? And by everyone, I mean your wife, your kids, God, your coworkers, your teammates, your whoever is there. What are they saying? What would you want them to say? Maybe,
Yeah.
but better. Cool. Now, like, what would you do? How do you work backwards from that to say, like, what are the things that you can start doing today in every category of your life, whether it's your health, whether it's your relationships, whether it's your business, whether it's your um, finances, like whatever it is, just spending the time thinking about what a life well lived actually looks like. Oftentimes, imagining you're not here anymore because death is that great equalizer. It all of a sudden says, was that truly important, that thing that you're spending your time and your money on? Or would you regret not having spent more time or more money on these other areas of your life? Um, and then just spending a lot of time in reflection to say, is what I'm doing still aligned with what I say I want to do?
Yeah. Do you use a technology or specific process or questionnaire or process to help clients through this? Not that there's a right way, but like what have you found works well versus maybe not so well?
Yes. This is maybe, depending on who you are, maybe the hardest piece. So Carl Richards was our event speaker at our team event last week, and this is kind
Nice.
of a part of what we talked about, of the fact that clients don't come to you saying, "Joe, transform my life. Joe, please help me understand like why I have these money behaviors." Whatever. Like they come because do I have enough to retire? What do I do with my 401k? I watched a YouTube video and it said something about Roth conversions. So like that's what they think that they want. And so it's not like a simple, hey, everyone wants to save money on taxes. Cool. Here's the framework. Boom, boom, boom. Here you go. Nobody knows that they want this piece or needs this piece, but it's the piece that actually becomes the most impactful in a lot
Yeah.
of advisory relationships. So I think the point that he made to our team last week that I really appreciated was there's no framework for this. There's no technology for this. There's no like equivalent to a risk tolerance questionnaire that you can do for what do people actually care about.
Yeah.
It comes from learning how to be very present. So if you're my client, how can I learn to be very present in my conversation with you to really tune in to the way you're saying certain things, or to is there something deeper to that statement Joe just made? And then being very curious. Meaning I'm not trying to just get through my Sequoia system. I'm not trying to get through this right capital projection. I'm not trying to get through this tax projection. I'm going to learn to be very present and very curious. And when like a little brief window presents itself, can I learn to ask the right question and then just pause and see where that goes? And maybe I get stonewalled. Great. I'm going to keep going through the process. Or maybe Joe gives me something that I can go a little bit deeper into. And then can I ask a follow-up question and a follow-up question and a follow-up question. And there's going to be certain points of relationship, whether it's meeting number 3 or month number 3 or year number 3 in that relationship, where actually the dam does break open. It's like, okay, cool.
Sure.
Now we can go here, but it's not something that you can apply in a super structured framework like you could tax analysis, because clients may or may not know they want it or need it. And when that does happen, there's not a single way to go about doing it.
Are you familiar with like the Untethered Soul book or the Surrender Experiment?
A little bit, yeah.
It just gets super deep into like the voice inside your head and meditation. Do you feel like meditation, being fully present in the current moment, not worrying about the past or worrying about the future, like practically, how do you do that, or how do you train your advisors to do that in for clients specifically?
Meditation.
Being present, listening really well, being curious.
Well, we don't have like a formal training program for that. I would say though, for whatever reason, a lot of our advisors, I would say, are just naturally very gifted at that sort of thing. I think it's more
Okay.
so we've been very fortunate to get the types of people on the team here at Root where like that is already a very big, not necessarily like, oh, they have such a great meditation practice or whatever. Like they're great listeners.
Sure.
They're great communicators. They have a high ability to connect with people and to build that trust up front. So I would say like Root can't take any credit for that except for the fact that like, yeah, we we let them in the door because they're really excellent at what they do. So
Right.
no, that's not like a program that I would say we train. But again, going back to what we're talking about with even goals, like sometimes it doesn't need to be super complicated, sophisticated. You just need to realize and have an awareness of the fact that it matters and that goal matters and that you need to spend time focused on this. And same thing here. Like if we can just realize that um, your ability to be present, your ability to be curious, your ability to dig deeper matters, well, then view every single thing that you do in life as training. How can I practice that in my conversation with Joe? How can I practice that in my conversation with my 4-year-old daughter? How can I practice that in my conversation with my executive team? How can I practice that in my interviews? Well, if you have an awareness that it matters and you can view all of life as training, then you're just naturally going to start to get better as you practice.
That's really cool. So just practicing being present.
Yeah.
That's pretty neat. I feel like I should just pause for a minute, let that sink in. um, yeah. So maybe we can talk about the team a little bit. So you mentioned um, hungry, humble, and human. How do you find the people that are a really good fit for Root?
Well, kind of the same way we find clients. We're not actively out there soliciting as much as if we can put out, here's what we are and here's what we're about. And if this resonates, cool. It generates a lot of inbound
Yeah,
attention.
sure.
Doing so, like when we started doing that, the unintended consequence, maybe the most positive thing was whenever we opened a job posting for an advisor or a client service associate or whatever the role was, we had a huge amount of interest from people. I was like, wow, how did you find out about Root? And they're, well, we watch your content. It's like, oh, very cool. Like I had no idea that advisors are watching it, but it started to draw advisors or other industry professionals to Root into the jobs that we're posting. So why don't we do more content like geared towards that? Why don't this
Sure.
is part of the reason I started the Root Ready podcast a year ago, or we've been more active on just trying to say, here, like here's our team, here's how special the team is. How do we post that everywhere so that when it comes time to open a job, like we don't need to rely on recruiters. We don't need to rely upon like it's the right people are already interested in joining Root because you there's a lot of talk about a talent shortage. It's like there's zero talent shortage. The shortage is a shortage of quality firms that exist where young talented people would want to work.
Yes.
And so when you have that, of course, the firm owner is not going to look inward and say, well, maybe my firm sucks. Maybe there's nothing compelling about what I'm doing. And maybe this isn't the place that, a young, hungry person is going to want to work the rest of their career. Well,
Yeah.
that's not a talent shortage. That's an issue. Like that's your issue. So there's a huge amount of very talented people that are not able to um, maybe realize their full potential because they're held back in some way, whether it's because of support or resources or just feeling like, man, this is a firm that says on the website they want to help people, but really this firm just wants to gather assets and avoid hard conversations. And like, there's really nothing special to what we're doing. You're not going to be fully engaged in that. So we wanted to show like, yeah, we do have a mission and we do have this desire to be this really transformational force for good, both for our clients and for our team. We want this to be a place where people feel like, yeah, your life has changed because you either work with Root or you work as a team member of Root. So when you do that, like if that actually happens, not just me saying it, but like if that's actually happening underneath the surface and you can show via social posts or videos or whatever, like here's who we have at Root. Why wouldn't like the best and brightest say those are the people I want to spend my career with, not this firm where I feel like I'm doing all the heavy lifting and I'm not receiving the support um, that I need to be able to realize my full potential.
Yeah. No, I think we're on the verge of a massive shift. I mean, Josh Brown did a video about how like 90% of RIAs are shrinking if you take away market growth. So like literally if 10% of RIAs are growing and 90% are shrinking, like especially if the 10% are getting even better and better, like there's going to be a massive talent transfer, I mean wealth transfer. Um I think that you're part of that simply in the way that you're choosing to live and run your company. Do you have any thoughts on that? Like the industry as a whole, like will good overcome mediocrity in the long term?
Um, I'll I'll preface this again saying I don't spend a lot of time thinking about the industry. So there's probably a lot of things I just don't know, but that are
Sure.
going on in the industry. Yeah, it strikes me as like a time horizon issue. You're an advisor. You're like the industry's obviously shifted. You used to get into it by being good at business development and being good at developing relationships, which is really, really hard when you are knocking on doors, you're going to chamber of commerce, or you're cold calling, whatever it is, you're building your business and great, like good for you. That's an exceptionally hard thing to do, but it's not necessarily something that builds a lasting business. It's something that builds a practice, a personal practice, but there's no, unless you start to take this shift to say, how can we do this in a way that supports many advisors that can create some continuity to what you're doing? You play that out, the natural byproduct of that is you're an advisor, you're managing a good amount of AUM for a certain number of households, and it's like, well, what do you do when you get ready to retire? Like your time horizon is very short. It's what can I do to maximize the value of this practice I built? And that is going to be selling to a private equity firm or selling to an aggregator or selling to one of these larger firms. All of a sudden you know, I don't blame you for doing that. Like that's the highest value you're going to get. But you now have your clients turned into a book of business trying to be optimized by some private equity backed firm that's trying to flip this. Like that's not going to be the best experience for them. So I don't know how it plays out long term. Like, is there going to be a massive transformation? Maybe. Like doing what we're doing though, like we have 67 team members. There's a lot more advisors in the industry than that. It's a very disjointed
Yeah.
industry. Like it takes a lot of like a series, like I don't even know how many people creative planning employs, thousands and
Yeah.
thousands, I would guess at this point. So is there a transformation? Is there not? I honestly don't know. And in some ways don't care as much as saying like what we're going to build at Root is going to be different and it's going to be special. And I hope that we can grow it to the point that a lot of really great, talented people we can build with at Root, and this becomes a meaningful place for them to do their best work. And a lot of clients' lives are impacted in a meaningful way. Um, but just from a number standpoint, like Root's nothing in terms of headcount compared to
Sure.
a creative planning or a Mercer or an Edelman or a whatever. And at the same time, it's like that's not who we're comparing ourselves to.
Right.
So we'll see what it becomes, but I don't know what that transformation looks like.
Yeah, for sure. Well, maybe we'll wrap up with this question. I did a Substack a few days ago. Like, what is advice? There are AI financial advisors now that have all the designations, can answer any question, can do it faster than a human can. But yet, people still pay for a human advisor to give advice. So, what would be your definition of advice or the product that Root Financial sells?
Uh, Probably transformation. If there's not something transformative happening in your client's life, and the transformation doesn't happen because of a Roth conversion, doesn't happen because you told them exactly how much they could spend. That transformation is something that's emotional or relational or whatever it is. Going back to what we said before, is their life better lived because of their relationship with you?
Yeah.
So it's that sense of, I was actually just talking about about this with my dad last night, like life-changing counsel. Like, is the counsel that we're providing changing your life in any meaningful way, or is it just information? If it's just information, that's like, not only is it replaceable, AI can probably already do that better than an advisor could. So there has to be an element of transformation, which, yes, part of that is the right information, but other parts are relationship, other parts are that connection, other parts are that knowing that financial advice goes way deeper, of course, than just the investments and the technical planning. There's an aspect of psychology to it. There's an aspect of coaching to it. There's an aspect of therapy to it. Like if you can do those things, then the information can be used to create that transformation as opposed to just answering a question.
Yeah. How Sorry, yeah, one more question, then I promise we'll be done. You also mentioned in one that like wisdom isn't directly correlated with age. So like potentially a 22, 25-year-old advisor could offer better counsel than someone that's 80 years old but like hasn't lived very well. Um, is that just something people are born with where they are able to have more wisdom at a younger age, or how do you find humans that have that capacity?
A lot of it just comes with life experience. So yeah, you might be 80 years old, but you have this, you know, you live the same year over and over and over for the last 60 of them. There's some wisdom that's naturally going to come because things happen, you lose people, you go through hardship, you do things. But yeah, like the more you meet some really young people sometimes that feel like they've already lived 5 lives.
Yeah,
And a lot of it comes from the fact like they've done things that are scary and they've done things that for most people say that's so far outside of my comfort zone.
yeah,
Um, so it's that. It's like it's not years of experience, it's collected wisdom that comes from going through things specifically that I would say are hard or challenging or scary or whatever it is. And so I think you're probably referencing a question we got the Ari and I addressed on one of our Root Talks shows. If someone's saying, "Hey, Root looks awesome. You all look really young. How can I trust that you have the wisdom and to go through?" And I think I used the example like I was 28 27, 28 when I got fired from my last firm. It was like I feel like I learned a ton of super valuable lessons in that moment that are
sure.
very relevant to the conversations I'm having with 65-year-olds who are terrified to retire because they don't know what's on the other side. Yes, the money piece is dialed in, but they're now realizing there's this fear, there's this uncertainty, there's whatever. So having gone through something when there's a lot of fear and uncertainty and not knowing what's on the other side, doesn't matter how old you are. Like that's now something that's an experience that you have that you can use to connect with a person on a deeper level and not just say, trust me, it's fine, but like acknowledge and sit in that with them. Um, but anyways, the point was that doesn't come from just collecting more years under your belt. It comes from life experiences that help to accelerate that.
Yeah. So if you want to double AUM in a year, add $1 billion, do more scary things. That kind of the
Go get fired. Yeah.
don't get fired or get fired.
Get fired.
Get fired.
Obviously, tongue in cheek. Yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, James, thank you so much for coming on today's podcast. Really deep, meaningful insights today. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Thanks, Joe.